Hello, this is Margaret Rosa King. I am presenting to you a presentation on digital divide, which also means digital inclusion is one of the most important social justice issues of our day. In our digital society, the unconnected are a growing underclass. The Internet has empowered many to find incredible resources and has allowed many to do some wonderful things. It seems as though we are gradually taking steps closer to a faster, more efficient life. The digital divide is most commonly defined as the gap between those individuals and communities that have and do not have access to information technologies that are in our lives. The Internet revolution has placed knowledge and power in the hands of the people. But this seismic shift has not empowered equally. The Internet revolution has placed knowledge and power in the hands of the people. But this seismic shift has not empowered equally. America's disadvantage has been abandoned, and further deepening social divides. The Internet is changing the world. Why? The Internet is responsible for 20% of economic growth in developed nations. It is more than energy and agriculture and mining combined. More than 6 million students are taking online classes in the U.S. alone. Over 80% of teachers say e-learning increases student engagement and quality of work. And I agree. High-speed broadband has fueled the revolution, but 100 million U.S. households lack broadband access because of the following reasons: income, racial, city versus rural. %40 of the poorest households do not own a computer, and only 40% of the wealthiest go without one. Computer and internet use by household. The people with the less income has the less computers. The people with the higher income has higher amount of computers in their homes. The 25 less have less broadband than the 25%. And as the income increases, broadband is decreasing. Broadband is represented by orange. This data is according to Charlie Smith, February 5, 2012. Smith claims that minorities have lower rates of internet access than white people. Smith claims that white population has 72% of internet access. Hispanic population has 57% of internet access. And Smith claimed that black populations have has about 55% of access. He obtained his data from the Pew Institute. Okay, city versus rural. More than 2 times as many rural households use dial-up as urban households. In mostly rural areas, nearly 1 in 10 Americans have no broadband available at all. What's so shocking? America is the world's richest country, yet it lags behind other developed nations in providing internet access, according to Smith. The U.S. ranks 12th for internet access and 14th for broadband. Why? Because lack of competition and because of high costs. See? %90 of Americans have access to 2 or less providers, resulting in higher costs that squeeze out America's poor, according to Smith, 2012. Emerging technologies are far more expensive in the U.S. than abroad. Verizon in the U.S. costs, according to Charlie Smith, as listed below, 2.5 times as much as in Amsterdam, the cost, 5 times as much as in Paris, and 6 times as much as fiber optic in Hong Kong. Americans are paying more than less in comparison to other countries. The United States has the highest cost. Japan and South Korea has less. They don't pay as much as Americans. This is according to Charlie Smith, February 5, 2012. Even Finland pays a high amount, and Canada. And UK pays a lot too, in comparison to East Asia. Access to technology must be expanded to all Americans, according to Smith. The FCC has launched the Comprehensive National Broadband Plan, pledging to build needed infrastructure, increase speed, reduce costs. And this is uncertain. Here are the 4 phases of government's effort to close digital divide. Promote a Superfund, use e-readiness, pick on all the phone companies, use more wireless, the Superfund, because everyone assumed market forces could be altered, governments thought the answer must be to create superfunds that would subsidize the delivery of digital technology to the poor. Well, want to to embolden reformers and influence researchers in universities such as superstar economist Jeff Sachs joined forces with reformers to promote a concept called e-readiness, sometimes called network readiness. Phase 3. Many government reformers blame the plain old telephones companies for the failure to close the divide. Here's the plain old telephone companies. By 2000, most developing countries had only between 2 to 2% phone penetration rates, despite prodding by the World Trade Organization Telecom Services Act. Reformers in many countries found that it wasn't easy to dislodge the entrenched power of the incompetent telephone companies, most of which were under the control of powerful government bureaucrats. Even after World Trade Organization passed its Telecommunications Act services, this is according to the Wave Trend Group. Asia is stepping up right now. Meaningful Broadband Digital Divide Institute's models for bridging the digital divide has far-reaching implications for the developing world. Way over in Johannesburg, Africa, it's trying to increase its provision of broadband internet access, offer wireless internet access at libraries, and it has again claimed will fix its system for billing for municipal services in a bid to become a smart city. May 2013, 50% of American adults ages 18 and older do not use the internet or email. This is according to the Pew Institute and the Kauffman Foundation. Why don't all children have laptops and tablets, which are as necessary today as our textbooks? Because these are too expensive. Laptops typically cost more than $500. The low-end iPhone 5C costs well over $500 without a carrier subsidy. The Indian government realizes a few years ago that the technology industry had no motivation to cater to the needs of the poor. Three years later, the Indian government delivered a 7-inch Android-powered tablet called Akash. This has a processor as powerful as the first iPod, twice as much RAM memory, a LCD touchscreen which displays full-screen video, browses the web, displays e-books, and plays video games. While we still talk about the internet, we increasingly have two separate access marketplaces: high-speed wired and second-class wireless. High-speed access is a superhighway for those who can afford it, while racial minorities and poorer and rural Americans must make do with a bike path. Lack of internet access can put some kids at an academic disadvantage. Comcast and Pittsburgh Public Schools are teaming together to offer another year of Internet Essentials, an initiative that provides low-cost internet services to low-income families. Some ways to close the digital divide. According to the European Commission, some 3 million people do not have access to traditional broadband networks because they live in rural or isolated areas. But satellite-based broadband is changing this. Satellite technology is already in use, and in many areas, including bringing Wi-Fi services to some train passengers. Europe is bridging the divide between digital haves and have-nots. The possibility that mobile technology in classroom could help narrow the digital divide between the nation's low-income and more affluent students, according to Schultz. Getting to a point where teachers trust students enough to let them use whatever device they do have and creatively managing and grouping their use could be a starting point to get past the inequalities, according to Schultz, 2013. Now here are the references. Most importantly, people need to be aware of the digital divide. They also need to be informed that the gap is widening. The wealthy will continuously use their skills and technology to further their businesses, while the underprivileged will continue to fall behind, according to Newman and Wikipedia. Now, how can we bridge the digital divide? Donate old computers, make financial donations to schools, spread the word, tell friends, colleagues, or peers about digital divide and inform them of ways they can help. Get involved and volunteer with a program who is working to bridge the divide. And this concludes this presentation, and this is the end.